right, y'all, what's going on? Welcome to the Monday Night Live. I got my drink. I'm actually drinking some matcha tonight. I'm getting kind of risky. It's matcha and cayenne pepper. Normally, I don't drink matcha this late in the day, but we'll see. We'll see how that works out. But I figured, I can use a little extra something, a little something, not a whole lot. But anyways, how y'all doing today? Put a one in the chat if y'all can hear me clearly. My audio's coming through well. All right. By the way, I've been on a little bit of a coughing spree lately over like the last week or so. And apparently it was because the pollen and whatnot, the ragweed and all of that was extremely elevated. Which I'm kind of grateful for because I have a long, extensive history of seasonal allergies that pretty much went away once I really figured out my plant-based solution slash lifestyle. So, my seasonal allergies used to be real bad. I mean, my eyes would be all ballooned up and everything. I'd be rubbing my eyes all day, be lethargic, knocked out in bed and whatnot. I mean, it was brutal. And now, the most I get is like a little bit of a cough and a little bit of itchiness in the eyes, but not too much. But in any case, I see some ones in the chat here popping up real quick. We see some returns. Big shout out to everybody returning to the live stream. Folks, hit the like button right quick. All right. My ladies here in the chat. Yeah, there we go. The matriarch of the tribe. Miss D, what's going on? 7A, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Miss Sharon from the Poetry Corner, what's going on? And welcome. Got my Mama Dukes in the chat. Jay, what's going on? Welcome back. Man of Yah, welcome back. Look at that, a lot of returns here. Miss Denise, good to see you in here. My man Jay Short, real trooper. Big shout out to you, good to see you in here. All right. Miss Ruffay, I am. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I feel like I'm not, but let me know if I am or not. I'll give it a second crack. But in any case, let me know where y'all tuning in from tonight. I'm kind of curious of where are y'all tuning in from tonight. Today I'm gonna get a little bit deep, right? So we can talk about scientific, the scientific jargon, the studies, and all of that, and what that says. And if y'all actually want me to go over research papers and things like that on stream, I could definitely do that. I get kind of hesitant about it because it might be boring for some folks. But that is a big part of what I do, right? I actually wanted to go over a few studies that really demonstrated the ideal dietary approach for type 2 diabetes and insulin sensitivity, even type 1 diabetes. Because interestingly enough, the solution to type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes is actually pretty much the same approach, more or less. Even though type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes are a bit different because one is more of an autoimmune disorder and the other one is more of a metabolic disorder that is a result of lifestyle choices over a period of roughly 5 to 10 years, right? But yeah, if y'all want me to go over stuff like that and get a little bit more on the technical side, definitely let me know. And we can get into that. But what's interesting is if you know the principles of how this stuff works, if you know universal law, if you know principles, and you pretty much know, or it's very easy to determine what the scientific data is going to say if you follow the principles. And some of that I'm going to actually go over tonight, right? And it is good to understand universal law or, universal principle in order to tell what is durable information and what is not. Now, I like to go off of scientific data, right, peer-reviewed journals, and etc. But there are some limitations to scientific data because it is conducted in a controlled setting. And we do not live in a controlled setting, right? That's number one. And then number two, money can kind of skew the results. And when you put together a study, there's two ways you can put together a study. You can put together a study with really solid methodology, with a large sample size, randomized control trials and things of this nature, right? Or you cannot. You can put together a study where there's some things missing. It's not the guardrails of the study aren't as clearly defined. There's some very important metrics and data that were not tested for. The study's not long enough. The sample size is not large enough. This kind of thing, right? So there are limitations. Now, of course, I'm not going to be a person that says, "Oh, I don't trust the science." I'm not really that kind of person, right? But we need universal law to pretty much fill in the gaps, right? And that's that's more along the lines of what I do in particular. So it's more of, yes, the data is correct, but also there could be some slight deviations once you exit a controlled setting and you apply things to real world data. So tonight, I'm actually going to lead into the connection between nutrition and economics and chronic illness or disease, or more simply put, food, money, and disease, right? Human health, in order to really understand how to approach any given problem or goal you may have involving your health, you have to understand the science of economics. When we think about economics, we often think about money, finance, things like that, but it's not really just money and finance. It's really economics as in resource delegation, right? Resource distribution, labor, investment, etc. And these principles, you can apply them pretty much seamlessly across anything. It doesn't really matter what it is. So for example, if I invest in a stock on the stock market, I get a return as that investment matures, right? If I have a seed and I plant that seed, I invest my labor into planting that seed, I will get a return on the investment of my time and labor by that seed growing a tree or something like that that bears fruit and then feeds me, right? A stock can feed you through the form of dividends, right? In the same way where a tree can pay you dividends in the form of crops or fruit, for example, right? And this rinse and repeats on a seasonal basis. So, moral of the story, and this applies to fitness, this applies to agriculture, this applies to your field of study, whatever you decide to put your labor, time, and energy into, pretty much follows the same rules, the same universal law, right? So that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I decided to really focus this conversation in terms of economics or money, is because two things that we really value at the top of our list in our life is food and money, right? Food and finances. And the mishandling of food and finances can cause chronic illnesses or disease over time, right? We see this in ourselves personally, and we even see this intergenerationally, right? And the interesting thing about universal law is when you perpetually break universal law, usually you yield some type of punishment, right? You get hit, basically, right? You suffer some type of consequence as a result of not following universal law. Does that make sense so far? Put a 1 in the chat if y'all are following me so far, right? But I'm going to make this as clear and concise as I possibly can and relatable, right? When I talk about these things, I like to make them relatable. All right. And we reap as we sow. Absolutely. All right. So we got some ones popping up in the chat. There you go. There you go. Let me see if my... Oh, yeah, that's good. I like to put cayenne pepper in my tea. I put a few pinches of cayenne pepper in my tea. I like it hot. I like my tea spicy. All right. So the first thing you need to understand about any well-functioning economy is the way that resources, wealth, materials, doesn't really matter what it is. The way that it moves is supposed to move in a circle, right? Which means, so basically, Anything that ends up on the left side ultimately ends up on the right side. Anything on the top ultimately ends up on the bottom. It's a circle. It's a wheel, right? That wheel can move slow or it can move fast. The more energy you put into it, the faster it moves, right? The way that we usually destroy an economy or deteriorate that economy is when the wheel is not rotating, right? There's something congesting that circular movement. Let's take something like insulin resistance or diabetes. What is that? That's basically you eat food, right? Carbs, fats, proteins, that kind of thing. And that food basically breaks down in your stomach and moves to your intestines, and then you get this blood sugar spike. And if you are insulin resistant, if you are diabetic, you end up with this excessive accumulation of sugar or glucose in your bloodstream. Okay. So basically what happens is this saturation of your blood with glucose to a pathological degree resembles some congestion of the economy. It's not circulating smoothly. Things aren't getting to where they need to go in a timely fashion. It's like a traffic jam, right? And if you have a traffic jam, no one is moving, okay? And that glucose or that sugar is supposed to go to your cells, and then your cells engage in a metabolic process, taking that glucose and using it for energy, converting it into ATP, things like that. The cells go through their functions, they do their thing, and that signals to somewhere else in your body to do something else, right? In order for any given organ in your body to do its job, there has to be another organ down the line doing its job, right? In order for my lungs to function, my heart needs to function. In order for my heart to function, my brain needs to function. In order for my brain to function, my liver needs to function. My kidneys need to function. Everything needs to function together in this wheel. And there's messages that are traded throughout my body all day, constantly, okay? And these messages go from the brain and they do a full loop communicating with every aspect of my health and back up to my brain. And then my brain gives new signals and new messages. Now, what's interesting is signals go from the brain, go to your gut, and then messages then get relayed back from your gut up to your brain. It's a wheel, right? It's these back and forth messages, and they happen, right? Milliseconds, warp speed, constant messages all day long. If there is a hitch in the communication, if there's a hitch in the messaging, you end up with metabolic congestion of the economy, right? So what is these messaging apparatuses? Well, these messaging apparatuses, right, for example, would be hormones. Hormones are basically neurotransmitters, transmitting messages, right? So, for example, you consume food, that glucose hits your bloodstream, and there's hormonal messages that give your body instructions as to what to do with that glucose. And then that glucose then signals to your pancreas, hey, release insulin. Insulin shuttles the glucose into your cells, and then your cells become responsive, or should become responsive to that insulin, open up to receive the glucose, right? The cells receive the glucose, and then that messages to other cells in your body to also do their job. This is pretty much how it works all day long. So communication is very important, right? Now, the way we can understand communication is, let's say you work at your job, right? You do a certain amount of work, and your work is expected to yield you a salary or some type of hourly pay, right? This is communicated to you at some point, and you're expecting your paycheck on a given date, right? Imagine if you didn't know when you were getting your paycheck. You didn't know if you were getting it this week, next week, this month, next month. You didn't know. What happens is now you go, well, I don't know when I'm getting my paycheck, so I can't set my budget. I can't pay my bills. I can't go and spend things. I can't take certain trips until that money hits my account. Well, guess what you have? You have economic congestion, financial congestion. You're basically halted. You're stalled out because there's a failure of communication. There's no expectation there that you're counting on to be met in a given timely fashion, right? The way that happens in the human body is, for example, a stroke. right? There's a miscommunication or a blackout, a shortened communication in your brain, right? That sets a hiccup through your entire body, and boom, you get a brief shutdown, a brief blackout, right? It can be real brief to the point you didn't know it happened, or it can be real brief to the point where you end up collapsing or even having a heart attack or whatever the case is, right? Some are more severe than others. Same principle, same exact thing. So when it comes to economics and finance, right, the world that we live in, what are the common things that we talk about? We talk about inflation, right? We talk about cost of living being inflated. And this can be related back to diabetes, for example. Now, when you're obese or struggling to lose weight, and I'm talking about obesity, I'm not talking about you want to lose like 5 or 10 or 15 pounds. I'm talking about a person who has to lose 30, 50, 70, 100 pounds. If you have that much weight to lose, it is not because you eat too many calories. It's because you have a metabolic disorder. There's a hitch in the communication. The wheel is not rotating as it should, right? There's something stalling in the economy, right? So what is inflation? Inflation is basically where the resources you have are not really they're not as potent, right? Like you may have a dollar and your dollar doesn't really afford the things it used to, right? The value of your dollar isn't really quite cutting it as much anymore. If you're obese, it can be the same thing, right? So let's say you're insulin resistant. So your body, the amount of insulin you would need has to be higher because you're less responsive to the insulin. So you're insulin resistant. So if your pancreas releases a normal amount of insulin, well, that glucose isn't effectively shuttled to your cells. So you still feel tired. There's still hitches in your metabolism, right? I mean, you poor sleep quality, anxiety, depression, libido problems, excessive weight gain, tired, lack of motivation, etc. Right? That energy isn't hitting the way it's supposed to. You eat, but you're not being energized by your food. You're just eating and it's sitting on your gut and it's just being heavy, right? And so basically you need more. Now the thing is you need more energy, but just because you eat more food doesn't necessarily mean you'll have more energy. Right? In the same way where you can put more hours in at work, but that's not really a fix to the inflation. The inflation is not there. The inflation is still there, but now you're just doing more work. You're burning yourself out quicker, right? As a result. And so now you have to adapt to a higher workload in order to compensate. And so basically when we have metabolic disorders, we're doing all of this compensation against things like inflation. And you think, well, what's the cause of the inflation? Why is my dollar not affording me as much? Why is the insulin that I should be secreting, why is it not enough? Why does my pancreas have to secrete so much more insulin and get burnt out as a result? Well, to answer that question, we have to say, well, what is causing some resistance? What is causing a hitch in the circulation in your economy? Well, let's take a look at our economy here in the U.S., right? Now, there's an abundance of money. Our government prints its own money, right? The government doesn't run out of dollars. There's not a shortage of dollars. There's not even too many dollars necessarily. There's not too much money. It's not really the case. Now, what you hear in the media is you'll hear, well, we have inflation because the government was printing too much money. Right? So when you have more money in circulation, that money now loses its value because there's a surplus in the overall amount. So it becomes less valuable because supply and demand. The more supply there is, the less demand there is, right? So then, you got to stop printing money so that you can then, bring the money supply down? The conversation in our media is never about shrinking the money supply. That's not really what it's about. But how do you shrink the money supply if you were to do so? Well, your government would basically have to tax back money and then burn that money in order to shrink the money supply. That could be a solution. How does that relate to the human body? Well, you have obesity, so you have a surplus of stored fat in your body. And when you eat, you have a surplus of glucose in your bloodstream. So you have to shrink the supply of energy that you have available. because there's some type of congestion, right? So they say, hey, if you want to reverse your type 2 diabetes, if you want to reverse your obesity, well, you have to eat less. It's like the government printing less money. We just have to eat less. And gradually the supply will start to come down, right? Now, makes sense. Sure. And we even have scientific data that shows, hey, you know what? You eat less food, you lose less, you burn more, you lose more weight, right? Because you're not eating as much. So you no longer have a surplus of energy. So now your body has to scavenge and get adapted to being able to function with less energy available. Okay, works fair enough. But it doesn't really play out that way, does it? Now imagine we have a country where nearly 50% of the country is obese, struggling to lose weight. There's a weight loss coach around every corner. And what is every weight loss coach telling you? You gotta eat less and move more. You gotta cut your carbs, right? You gotta exercise more. You gotta build more muscle. You gotta do more cardio. You gotta eat less food. But you've been doing that. So then let's say you cut your calories 500 calories. Normally you eat 2,000, you cut 500, you're down to 1,500, right? You're not really seeing the weight come off. Oh, you're not cutting enough. You're still eating too much. So then you cut down to what, 1,200, 1,000? Okay, so you cut down to 1,200 or 1,000 calories. Now, you're eating less. You have a shortage of energy. But here's the problem. Even when you were eating more, you still had a shortage of energy because you were tired all the time. So now you're even more tired because you're eating less, right? It's kind of like, imagine what happens when your government says, well, you know what? It's time to tighten your belts. We're doing quantitative tightening. We're raising interest rates, and we're no longer printing money and injecting more money into the economy, right? So your credit card rates go up, all of your interest rates go up, and everything becomes more expensive. That's what happens. But you were already economically, restrained or even struggling because of the inflation, right? And then they're making the cuts. And now not only do you have to contend with the inflation, but also the rise in the interest rates. Okay, now what? Well, usually the track record of our government is, all right, we got to go back to quantitative easing, right? Because banks are collapsing and eviction rates are climbing and the unemployment rate's increasing. So we got to do quantitative easing. Turn the money printers back on, right? Turn the money printers back on, and then people start hiring and all of this type of stuff, and then the economy's doing great. We're back on, right? Bull market and the stock market, etc. It's all rainbows and sunshine. Boom, fix the problem, right? Sometimes we do this with our diet, right? We call this the yo-yo diet. You've been cutting, and then you start to break, and then you start eating more food because you're hungry, you're starving, you feel lethargic and miserable all the time, right? So you capitulate to your hunger cravings. You get less disciplined with your food consumption, right? So you start making worse food choices because you're so hungry and miserable from all the hard cuts that you've made from your energy intake and your diet, that now you're just eating. And then what happens? You gain back any potential weight that you lost, and then you even gain more weight than you did previously. So then you end up being heavier than you were, before you made the cuts. Right? So you made the cuts, you were 220 pounds, you made the cuts, you dropped like 15 pounds or something like that, but you just felt miserable, and then you caved, you started eating again, and next thing you know, you're up to 245. You're up to 235. You go, what the hell? So now what do? Do you start cutting again? What do? Do you eat more? Do you eat less? Where do you go? Because I was told, well, I know the calorie cutting works, right? I lost 15 pounds or 12 pounds or whatever. Hell, maybe I lost 50 pounds, but for some reason I didn't gain back the whole 50 pounds. Do I cut again? Does your government go back into quantitative tightening again? So you go into these boom bust cycles, right? Now you can go to economics class, and you can learn about quantitative easing, the increase in the money supply, the printing of money, so to speak. You learn about quantitative tightening, right? Shutting the money printers off, raising the interest rates, taxing back more money, right? To reduce the money supply. Learn about these things in economics. You can read, economic papers about these things. And our government has functioned like this for our entire lifetime. How's that working out? Well, when we look at the value of the dollar over our entire lifetime, all it has done is weakened in its value. So it doesn't seem like that strategy's been working very well. But it's the consensus. We all know that's how our economy works. It's how our money supply works, right? Printing money, cutting it off, interest rates up, interest rates down, right? We have the Fed. They give the thumbs up or the thumbs down. That's how it goes, right? It's the solution. These are competent people who they are the gatekeepers of the system, and they feed us. Hey, well, this is how it works. You want to lose weight, you eat less food. You want to gain weight, you eat more food, right? You want a deflation on the dollar, you do quantitative tightening. You want to reverse from that, you do quantitative easing, right? Boom bust cycle, they call it. Bull bear market cycles, right? Yo-yo diet. It's the same thing. It's not really a solution, because in order for a person to get to 300 plus pounds, they weren't always 300 plus pounds. Maybe, you were 313 pounds at 45 or 50 years old. But when you were 20, you were 160 pounds. And then 24, you were 220, maybe 230. And then you drop some weight. You drop down to 210, maybe you drop down to 200. Then something happens, and then you back up to 250, 255, 260 at like 28, 30 years old. Something goes off the rails in your life again, you notch up some more weight. And you go on a fitness journey, you come back down in weight, right? But you go up, down, but the trend is upward. That's the trend. That's typically how it works for most people, right? So what is the solution really besides cutting and increasing and cutting and increasing? There has to be something else, right? The scientific data already has told us up, down, thumbs up, thumbs down. But there has to be something else, because we got to get off this roller coaster ride of up and down. So going back to universal law, uncongesting your economy. It's not about how much you eat or how little you eat. It's about what you eat, right? It's not about how much money is in circulation or how much money isn't in circulation. It's about what's happening to the money, whatever's happening to it. Where's it going? There is an accumulation of money somewhere, and it's not going to where it needs to go. In the same way, when you're insulin resistant, there's an accumulation of blood sugar, and that sugar is not going to where it needs to go. There's nothing wrong with the sugar. We don't need less sugar. You don't need less sugar. You just need it to go where it's supposed to go. In the same way, you don't need to get rid of the money or shrink the money supply. You just need the money to go where it's supposed to go. Now we start opening our view. We start searching for other solutions here. There's got to be something else, right? So now this comes to resource distribution. In any broken economy, usually the case is either going to be a lack of resources altogether or poor resource distribution. In most cases, it's resource distribution that ends up being the problem. We're surrounded by a wealth of food. We have high access to food, but we also have high access to different types of food. So many choices, right? In the same way, we're in our economy. I mean, technically we have access to money. You can get a new credit card, pick up new debt. You can get a new job. You can drive Uber, Instacart, whatever the case is. Sure, there's more opportunity, but it's about reversing the congestion, right? So what if you change what you were eating? What if you changed the job you were doing or how you were doing it? So now you think about this, right? Universal law. In order to be able to uncongest your economy, whether in your body or in your country, there needs to be some type of predictability, and there needs to be a need base. There needs to be a serving of resources based on need, right? So when it comes to putting together your diet, it's not a matter of cutting your calories. It's about eating what you need. Take what you need and when you need it, right? So let's say you're stuck in traffic, but the reason why you're stuck in traffic is because there's too many tractor trailers on the road. Well, if there's too many tractor trailers on the road, what happens if there was less tractor trailers on the road? There'd probably be less traffic, right? What if you had more lanes on the road? If you had more lanes on the road, like more lanes on the freeway or whatever the case is, well, you'd have better traffic. The equivalent to creating more lanes on the road in your body is increasing the mitochondria in your body. How do you increase mitochondria? Well, now we get into food choice. When you eat certain foods, your body responds in a particular way, right? So when people think about like food, there's calories, and then downstream from calories, there's fats, carbs, and proteins, macronutrients, right? Now, out of the three, protein is the building blocks, carbohydrates is an energy source, and fat is an auxiliary energy source. Carbohydrates burns the quickest and the hottest. Fat burns the slowest and the coldest. Protein is more of the building blocks of new cells. It's not really supposed to be an energy source, right? And we know protein is not an energy source because protein, when it is not needed, whatever extra protein your body doesn't need converts it into energy. Now, if it was energy to begin with, your body wouldn't need to convert it into energy through gluconeogenesis or lipogenesis, right? Your body would just be able to use protein as energy. It's not how it works. If you are metabolically congested, your body is large, well, you don't really need more building blocks to increase your body's size or to build more infrastructure necessarily. What you do need is you need more energy. You need to unstagnate your energy. It's the same thing with an economy, right? The reason why your government does quantitative easing is they want to inject more money into the economy so that more money goes into people's pockets so they go out and spend money. You have more people going out and spending more money. Well, that drives the economy to circle faster, right? So if you have more people with money, more people spending money, well, then there needs to be more work in order to fulfill the needs, the consumption needs of the consumer. So imagine you increase the energy in your body, right? You find out the most efficient way to provide your body energy. Your body then responds with more consumption and more output, more labor. It's a wheel, right? Nobody gets obese because they have too much energy. People get obese because there's more energy going in than there is going out. And the energy that's going in is not being used because there's a hitch in the metabolic process. So imagine if you had a diet where you were eating mostly fruits all day long, where your body easily ran through those fruits, and your body digested them very quickly and used them for energy very quickly. Well, why would that be? High energy foods, high water foods, hyper palatable because they're so sweet and juicy and amazing. So you can just eat them. You don't have to do a whole lot of cooking or meal prep. Real easy. Fruit doesn't really weigh on your gut for any prolonged period of time, right? You eat a ton of fruit now, and then within like an hour or so, hour and a half, you're hungry again. So with the fruit, you can keep eating, and then what happens? You keep eating, your metabolism picks up. Everybody who either signs up for coaching with me or gets a custom diet plan with me or follows my dietary approach in the 12-week mentorship, within the first week, about 98, 99% of people come back to me within the first week and they're like, man, I have so much more energy. I'm sleeping better. My skin is starting to clear up. I'm using the bathroom more frequently. My body's getting rid of all these waste products. I feel so much better. I feel lighter. Everybody tells me this. right? Some people it may take 2 weeks. Some people it may even take 3 weeks. It depends on how bad of a shape they're in. It usually happens within the first week for like 99% of people of all ages. I've had people in their early 20s. I've had people in their 80s, right? Same thing straight across the board. We significantly decrease the amount of dietary fat. We significantly increase the amount of carbs, right? Not a whole lot of protein, not a whole lot of fat, a lot of carbs, but specifically from foods like fruit predominantly, right? If we go back to the money supply and we deal with the congestion in our economy personally, our economy in our country has diabetes. Money is being injected in and it's being sucked up by fat cells. And those fat cells are what we call billionaires, right? The ultra rich, the 0.0001%, right? And they're just, it's your Walmarts, it's your Amazons, it's your Teslas, right? It's all of the giant corporations and plutocrats and oligarchs who are right next to the government and the money printer, and you hear this sucking sound. They're just hoovering up all the money, right? So as the rest of the working class is dealing with the inflation, the plutocrats and the one that is sucking up all the wealth and the resources, they're getting fatter and fatter and fatter. Like your fat cells in your body, they're just growing and growing and growing, right? And you see it in the sentiment if you watch the news. People are like, you know what, I hate billionaires, eat the rich, pitchfork economics, right? Well, in our body, we feel that way about our fat cells, right? Now, you don't have to hate your fat cells. Not really much point in it. In the same way, there's not much of a point in hating the rich, right? If you want to balance out this overaccumulation of resources, well, you gotta empty them out. In the same way with your fat cells, you gotta empty them out. So I'm not gonna make this too much into I'm not gonna give a political solution, but I'm just telling you what the problem is, right? Y'all might identify with this a little bit. But we want to shrink the fat cells in the same way where we want to shrink our plutocrats and oligarchs, right? So that we can recapture our economy and having things run smooth and seamless the way they're supposed to, right? We as a collective should be getting a cut of every single piece of profit that is made within inside our borders, period. Right? Collective ownership. No hoarding of resources. We don't want a hoarding of resources in our body. We don't want it in our country. We don't want it in our house. We don't want it, period. Nature does not work that way. Universal law dictates resource hoarding yields negative consequences, period. This works in nature. So, for example, imagine all of the water in your lakes, rivers, creeks, oceans were being evaporated and sucked up into the sky. And there was these really dense, dark clouds in the sky. And it was cloudy all the time. Storm clouds, wind, really thick, heavy, dark clouds in the sky all the time. But it never rained because the clouds were sucking up and hoarding all the water. Everything on the surface would dry out and die. Right? We need an equitable distribution of water in the air and on the ground and in between. There has to be a balance, right? Water goes up, cycles, comes back down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It revolves. And our planet rotates, everything spins. Everything is a circle. All forms of energy transmission operate in a circle, not a straight line, in a circle. It's a revolution. All the time. Everything's a circle. Nothing goes in a straight line. There are no straight lines ever, period, in nature, ever. Universal law. And your economy should work this way as well. So I talked about, well, if you're dealing with inflation, you need to make more money, so you do more labor. Now imagine, now we know that that doesn't necessarily work. That's not really a viable solution, is it? There's only 24 hours in a day, and the more hours you spend working, the less hours you spend sleeping, taking care of yourself, spending time with your family, nurturing your marriage, working on your hobbies, etc. Right? So we can't do that in our personal lives in the same way we can't do that in our body. We can't just go and work more. We can't eat less and move more in this this pathological way that is suggested to us, right? If you've struggled with obesity, you've went online and you've seen a million fitness coaches with 8 and 10 pack abs, all kind of veins and stuff popping out. Every picture of them on the internet is them with no shirt on, and they're flexing and working out on camera all the time, and they're looking at you and say, you need to eat less and move more. You need to work hard, right? It's the American way. You need to work hard. Well, if you're struggling to reach your weight goals because you're not working hard enough, you're eating too much, right? This is where our economic culture comes into play, and it really gets highlighted to a pathological degree. And this goes back to what I was saying about the quantitative tightening and the quantitative easing, back and forth, the yo-yo diet, right? There's a culture that reinforces that. Well, this is the way that it is because this is the way that it is. If you want to lose weight, you got to eat less and move more, period. It's calories in, calories out. But what if there's no such thing as calories in? Right? We say calories in, but there actually isn't a such thing as calories in because a calorie is a measure of energy expenditure. It's a matter of thermogenic output, not input. Calories are not a measure of input. It's a measure of output. Right? It's the manifestation of outwardly present and manifested energy in the form of thermogenesis. That's what a calorie is. So there is no such thing as calories in. You don't eat calories. You eat food, and food goes through a metabolic process inside your body, and that manifests in caloric output. You only burn calories. You don't eat calories. So when I come on and I say to you, eating less and moving more is not the glorified position that we should all be taking, because that's usually not going to fix your problem. It may help you if you're trying to drop 10, 15 pounds. It may help you if you're very close to your goal weight already. That would help you. But there's a difference between being overweight and having a metabolic disorder that is causing you to be obese. It's a fundamentally different thing. This is not advice for a man who is currently 14 or 12% and wants to get to 10% body fat. It's not what this is, right? If you are 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55% body fat, just simply eating less and moving more is not going to fix the problem because your body's already stressed to begin with. So we have to deal with the stress part, because when we talk about economics, we talk about inflation and all of these type of things, and we see these things plotted out on a chart. But then in comes the concept of market sentiment, right? And market sentiment deviates from this thing called market fundamentals. The fundamentals are the material conditions of a given thing in the market. And market sentiment is people's feelings, how people feel about the market, right? So you can have a company, it's a great company, great business, fulfills a real need in our society, but the stock price is dropping. Why? The fundamentals are great. Why is the price dropping? Why are people selling? It's market sentiment. It has nothing to do with the fundamentals. So the fundamentals is, oh yeah, sure, you burn calories, you lose weight, but that's not the sentiment. But in the body, it's not how you feel personally, it's how your body feels. Your body feels a thing called stress. Scientifically, this is referred to as oxidative stress. The oxidative stress in your body The way that your body signals to you that the oxidative stress is happening is inflammation. Inflammation is an activation of your immune system, right? Call this inflammation. Inflammation is a part of market sentiment, right? In a stock market or an economy, right, you have a bull and then you have a bear. Bull means good, bear is bad, right? Bull is an uptrend, bear is down. Bull is up in price, bear is down in price. High inflammation is bear, low inflammation is bull, right? Doesn't matter what the market fundamentals are in your body. It doesn't matter how many calories you're burning. What is this sentiment in your body? Where's the inflammation at? Where's the oxidative stress at? If you are an investor, well, you need to learn to have a healthy appreciation for the fundamentals, but also the market sentiment. How are people feeling about what's going on in the market or the economy at large? How are people feeling? We turn on the news and people on the news are like, man, the economy's doing great. Look at the stock market. But then the working class is complaining about, my property taxes are through the roof. My mortgage rates are up. Rent has like increased 100% in like within a matter of 2 years. This is getting out of hand. We don't like this at all. This is brutal. So you turn off the TV and you stop watching the news because you're like, these people are sitting up here, these cake eaters sitting on television, lying to us, gaslighting us to hell, right? That's frustrating. You tune out. You stop watching. I don't want to hear what these people have to say anymore. Your body will revolt against you in the same exact way. Where you can be like, look, I'm doing the work, I'm working out, I'm eating less. This is great. This is what's supposed to be happening. But your body's like, this is I don't like this at all. I'm not going to be getting rid of all of this body fat because body fat is a coping mechanism. I'm not going to just be burning body fat. This body fat is a security blanket for me. I'm not letting this go. I'd rather shed muscle mass because all that muscle you're trying to pack on, it's too much energy to try to keep that. It's much easier to keep fat. So then you struggle to gain muscle because you're constantly, whatever muscle you could be gaining, you're losing, and then your body's hoarding fat, and you're just becoming more insulin resistant, and you start developing more joint pain, poor sleep quality, and you may even develop some weird rashes or sleep apnea, or whatever the case is. Your kidneys might start hurting, things just start going off the rails, right? All you know is things are getting worse and your body is just not feeling good. The sentiment is bearish, right? So everything I've been saying so far is all based on fundamental principles, universal law, whether we're talking about a stock market, economy, finance, or your diet or your health, same thing. It's a complete mirror, same exact thing, because all of this is based on universal principle. Now imagine if market sentiment was good all the time. Or most of the time. Market sentiment is just good all the time. What if you had an approach to your health where you had a healthy respect for the fundamentals, but you leaned into the sentiment, and a large part of your strategy to improve your health was through prioritizing sentiment, the market sentiment in your body. So rather than focusing on calories in, calories out, you focused on stress management. You focused on bringing down the oxidative stress in your body. What if you focused on that instead? I want to let that sink in a little bit because most people pursuing health goals are not doing that. You're not deliberately doing it. You're doing it kind of incidentally sometimes. Maybe sometimes you focus on it, but it's not really like a core focus. It's not a core priority. And then when people try to make it a core priority, they do it in this kind of a pathological way. I'll give you an example. I'm just going to do green juices. I'm just going to take tons of leafy greens and I'm going to run them through a juicer and I'm just going to drink some really bitter green juice. And I'm just going to do that all day, every day in order to get the weight off. You can lose a lot of weight doing that, but it feels terrible the longer you do it. It gets worse. And then when you stop doing all the green juices and you start introducing foods again, guess what happens? Weight comes right back on. Why does this happen? Well, you've wildly disrupted the fundamentals and the sentiment. You did both, right? You didn't create a soft landing. That is a hard landing. You go from nasty, bitter juice, real low in energy. You're flooding your body with minerals and vitamins and, some amino acids and whatnot from the green juices. But it's really low energy and you're tired all the time because there's a lack of glucose. And you said, well, I thought when you wanted to lose weight, you wanted to keep your blood sugar low. You want to keep your blood sugar low enough to stimulate fat metabolism. But your primary goal should not just be trying to keep your blood sugar low. That's not what the goal is. A goal is not to keep your blood sugar low. That is not a good goal. It's not. Because when you keep your blood sugar perpetually low, you're like 2 degrees away from passing out all the time. You mess around and going into a borderline diabetic coma. You're just hangry all the time and whatnot. You might get some weird heart palpitations, poor sleep quality, just feel miserable over time. Now, what's interesting is the first week you did it, you can actually feel pretty great and the weight starts coming off and all of that, but the longer you do it, the worse it gets. Now, here's where science comes in. Because if you read scientific data, it shows that glucose, sugar, reduces oxidative stress. You go, well, I thought sugar was bad for you. My whole entire life, I've had the guy, striated muscles. He got a 12-pack abs. He has abs from his neck all the way down, right? Just abs. He's got veins on top of the abs. He's got abs on his chest, underneath his chest. He's got abs on the side. He's got abs on his back. He's got abs in his armpits. He's got abs everywhere. Because he does 360 crunches. He crunches backwards. He crunches forwards. He crunches to the side. He's crunching on Instagram. He's crunching on YouTube. He's crunching on TikTok. He's crunching in the park. He's crunching in front of clubs. He's crunching everywhere, right? And he's always with no shirt on. And he says, I just eat eggs and steak and avocado. No sugar. Sugar is the devil. And you say, well, I want to look like that guy with all the abs, with a stockpile of abs, right? But it's like, hold on, wait a minute. You don't necessarily want to get your cues from the genetic freak if you're not a genetic freak. Right? Probably don't want to do that. Right? I'm not going to copy the spending habits of Jeff Bezos and be like, man, if I want to be like him, well, I have to live a lifestyle like him. Nope. Don't have the resources to do it. You got to do something else. You have to follow a strategy that's geared to what you need. So this whole thing with sugar basically is like money. Sugar is an energy resource. You put sugar in and your body spends sugar in order to do things that it needs to do, right? More sugar means more energy. More energy means you do more things. Your body has more energy to do more things. If you have a lack of motivation, it's because that you either don't have enough sugar or you don't have a mechanism to use the sugar. It's kind of like having a ton of money and no bank account, right? So you're just stuffing money under your mattress or something like that, right? So imagine you got a ton of cash, but you have no credit and no bank account, right? And then you go with a briefcase full of money and try to buy something that's crazy high expensive, and the next thing you know, you're getting flagged by the government. This person just walked up in here with a briefcase that was full of cash, looking like a goddamn drug lord. Call the feds. This is fishy as hell. Right? You're getting flagged by the IRS and all type of stuff. So now imagine You got high blood pressure, your kidneys are struggling, you're you're dehydrated all the time, you got low electrolytes, etc. Well, now imagine you started eating like grapefruit and kiwis, you started eating watermelon and a whole variety of strawberries, blueberries, blackberries with the leafy greens. It's not a green juice. I mean, like you have a whole variety. You're eating all your colors. You're eating in abundance, right? Because rather than eating to lose weight, you're eating to reduce the oxidative stress. Well, when the stress comes down, guess what? Your body is able to perform much better. It's kind of like imagine you personally and your stress that you've dealt with in your life was cut by like 80%. Do you think your behavior would change? Do you think you would do things differently? Let's say you had a ton of great business ideas and you want to start a business. But the problem is, well, you don't have the time and you're tired all the time and you're stressed and you sleep poorly. So you just don't see realistically you're going to start a business. I got too much going on. It's too much. But imagine if all that stress that was holding you back, you cut it by like 80%. You'll start that business. You'll start taking steps, right? If we wanted to dumb it down even more, let's say your left foot was pins and needles, tingling and numbness and pain back and forth in your left foot. It's brutal. So you're like, and I tell you, or anybody tells you, walk 10,000 steps a day. You say, yeah, I really want to walk 10,000 steps a day, but my left foot is killing me. It hurts all the time. It's brutal. I would like to do more of the walking, but my foot hurts all the time. Me telling you to take down 10,000 steps a day is not helpful. If you have a severe amount of pain in your foot, you got to remove the oxidative stress. In order for you to achieve any fitness goal or wellness goal, the first priority is reducing that oxidative stress. That's number one. You can reduce oxidative stress through exercise, but the thing is that if the oxidative stress is the thing that is limiting you from doing the exercise, well, you have to pursue another means to reducing the oxidative stress. Right? So what if I said, hey, you know what I want you to do? I want you to eat more kiwis. I want you to eat 5 kiwis 3 to 4 days a week. I wanted you to eat a grapefruit a day with 4 tangerines and 8 ounces of grapes. I want you to eat 32 ounces of watermelon. And I want you to drink 8 to 10 ounces of nettle tea twice a day. I want you to implement those things in your diet. And then you go and you do it. By the way, that's actionable. What I just said, that's actionable. You can do that and change your life within like ASAP. And so you do those things. So you go, man, my foot is hurting a lot less. Guess what you start thinking when you relieve the pain in your foot? I want to start doing those steps. And now I tell you, whoa. Yes, by all means, 10,000 steps. But before you do that, start with 5,000 and then work your way up, 7,500 and then 10,000. Step up, right? You doing more exercise is investment. When you're new to investment and you say, hey, I got cash that I put to the side to invest, $10,000. What should I buy? And then I tell you, well, you know, there's this ETF. It's got a good variety of blue chip stocks. And right now it's currently at a PE ratio of 16, right? So it's actually undervalued or something like that, right? For those of you who are in finance and stuff, you know what I mean by PE ratio, but otherwise it's not necessary. Basically, the main takeaway is it's at a decently low price for an entry point for you to buy. And you say, cool, I'm gonna take that $10,000, blam, plap it right on there. And I say, whoa, wait a minute. Gradually buy in. Set a time interval where every week You put a certain amount of money in every week and you accumulate, right? Let's say you did that. Step it up. Because if you go for the 10,000 right out the gate, the moment you have clearance from the foot and the oxidative stress is down, you can do too much and then the pain comes back in the foot and then you're like, damn, I overdid it. And then you got to scale it back and then you feel like you took an L. It's not a good feeling, right? In the same way, you took the whole entire $10,000, bam, uno, right? And then that price dropped by like 5% and that $10,000 value dipped right after you bought. And you're like, oh man, I just lost money. I don't like how that feels, right? So you want to step it up. So if you put in 1,000 and you take a little bit of a price hit and it drops down to 920, okay, but it's a lot better than if you would have put the whole 10,000 in. So instead, if you put the 1,000 in and it drops to that 920, well, you can add in your next amount. And then when it recovers within a couple days or a week or whatever the case is, if you put in 1,000 once and it dropped down to 920, and then you put in another 1,000, well, guess what? When that price goes back up, you then gain a profit on the 1,000 you put in, and then the 920 comes back up. So now you're in the green. So you step it up gradually. Take time with your journey. Same exact thing. Just don't start dumping everything on yourself and you just want to go, 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 go. You can do that, but pace yourself. Because the people who are the most successful in their journey are the ones who play the long game, right? We are chopping up good game tonight. We are chopping up good game tonight. This is universal law, right? What I'm talking about here. These are the fundamentals of what I'm talking about. This is why I do these live streams, right? This is why I do coaching, right? I'm engaged. This is basically like coaching at this point. You need to know what to do and how to do it and why you're doing it. You got to understand the field. If you're new to football, yeah, sure, catch the ball, run it into the end zone. Fair enough. But the game is a bit more complicated than that. You got to know the rules. You got to know how to train to be a better player, right? You want to reduce your rate of fumble. You want to be a better player. It's not just simply catching it and running into the end zone. It's a bit more complicated than that, right? You got to understand the rules of the game, or in this case, universal law. So at the top of the priority list, if you are diabetic, if you have kidney disease, if you have fatty liver disease, if you have an autoimmune disorder, reducing oxidative stress consistently and gradually is the ultimate objective. Everything falls in line after that. You don't have to force your body to do anything. You have to allow your body to get into the position that it wants to get into. Your body does not want to be ill. Your body does not want to have a poor metabolism. You don't have to force your body to be better. It's not force. People you can't work, force, fight against your body to get it to do what you want it to do. That's not how this works. Right? If you want to learn, and I'm telling you right now, because our media trains us in this very pathological way, right? We watch the Rocky movies, and, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, he's in a fridge, freezing cold, punching meat and hurting his hands and doing all this rough stuff, right? Just brutalizing his body. And he gets in the ring. He's getting punched in the face a million times. He's getting hit in the head. He's falling to the mat. People yelling at him, telling him to give up, to get up. One side saying get up. The other one saying throw in the towel. People yelling his name. He can't see straight, all this type of stuff. And we grew up watching movies like this, and we think this is what it takes in order to reach your goals. And then we engage with our goals in these pathological ways, and then we wonder why we're struggling so much. There's no science behind that. That's not at all how it works. Not at all how it works. I have a martial arts background. Most of the stuff that gets you to be a good fighter is not hard, right? If you want to be a really strong puncher in boxing, The goal is not to get on the heavy bag and just punch the bag as much as possible and as hard as possible. That is not at all how it works. All you just end up doing is hurting your hands and your wrists doing that and developing elbow and shoulder pain. That's not at all how it works. When you just try to grind yourself out thinking, oh, that's what I'm going to take the Rocky Balboa approach to get better, all you do is end up with injuries. You just end up with injuries. That's not at all how it works. Yeah, you have to put in the effort, but you have to put in small amounts of effort on a very consistent basis. But it's not really how hard you do something necessarily. It's about the methodology. It's about how consistently you do it. So then when we get into consistency requires small dose amounts of a highly effective solution over a prolonged period of time that requires discipline and patience to facilitate the consistency. So I'm a big fan of 15, 20, 30-minute workouts a few times a week. That's all you need. If you're trying to build muscle, what you want to do is you want to train in a way where you reduce the amount of training time as much as possible in order to maximize recovery. I don't train that much, so I can recover a lot. Right? If you're doing the Arnold Schwarzenegger approach and you're training 5-6 days a week, well, guess what? You have less time to recover because you're always training. So people come to me and they say, man, I'm struggling to build muscle. I train 5 days a week. I'm like, well, that's why you're struggling to build muscle. Building muscle is not like building a house. It's not how it is. You're not just stacking bricks. That's not how it works. The only purpose of training to build muscle is you produce a stimulus. Your body recognizes the stimulus and then responds to it by building more muscle mass. You don't need to create that stimulus 5 days a week, and you don't need to create that stimulus over the course of an hour or an hour and a half in the gym every day. You can create that stimulus within 20 minutes. If you can create that stimulus in 20 minutes, why would you take an hour to do it? So, time management, consistency, all this type of stuff. And then your expectations have to be clear. You may not necessarily be struggling to build muscle, but it could just be more along the lines of you're being impatient. Being impatient, right? Are you getting stronger? Is your performance increasing week to week? If yes, stay the course. If no, alter your strategy, right? If you want to drop body fat, if you want to improve your blood pressure, you want to improve your insulin sensitivity, you want to improve your kidney health, lose weight, build muscle, you want to do all of these things, improve your sleep quality, stay hydrated, right? And then use your meals as check-ins. When you check in with your body, you drop something off. Here you go. Here's something for that oxidative stress. Have some watermelon. Have some tea. Have some berries. Have some sunflower seed kernels. Have some lentils. Have some sweet potato. Check in. How you doing? Right? Have some ginger tea for your gut. Check in. You have work that you do in your day. Maybe you can alter the partitioning of your day. I'm going to split my day in half. I'm going to start work early, and then I'm going to finish work early. And then after I finish work, then I'm going to eat my food for the day. So maybe I start eating and I eat from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. I walk my miles fasted. I do my work fasted. And then I work out, and then right after my workout, I eat and begin my eating window. And then I finish eating at 8 or 9 o'clock, and I'm in bed by 10:30. Right? You don't have to do it that way, but that way might work very well for you. But you organize, you get organized, and you schedule these check-ins, these brief, simple check-ins every day at the same time. Now we're going to get back into market principle. How can you determine what is a good investment and how often and how much you invest? Well, you've got market fundamentals, you got market sentiment, and what? What do these things look like? What do they manifest as? A chart, some sort of graph. In investments, you have this chart, and it's like these candlesticks. Some of them are green, some of them are red. When they trend upward, they're green, and when they trend downward, they're red. So you have a mix of green and red candlesticks. Now, what you're looking for is you're looking for a trend. Is the trend going up? Is the trend going down? And then when is the trend going up? And for how long it's going up? And then for how long is it going down? And you want to look at those candlesticks so that you can draw a line. And that line indicates a trend. And so you look at that trend, and then from that trend, you can say, I'm going to buy here X amount of times, A, B, C, D, and then I'm going to sell here. And I'm going to wait because it's going to drop. When it drops, I enter back in and I buy again, A, B, C, D. And then when it hits my peak in that trend, then I'm going to sell and repeat. Rinse and repeat. Right? So then in your life, when do you buy and when do you sell? What that looks like is how long you follow a given diet plan. Within this 12 weeks, I'm going to build up to this. Or within this 12 weeks, I'm going to do alternate day fasting. I'm going to eat 4 days a week. I'm going to fast 3. I'm going to eat Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. I'm going to fast Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and I'm going to ride out the fast for 24 hours. But within that 24 hours, I'm going to get in all of my herbal teas, my liquid chlorophyll. I'm going to supplement with my magnesium, my lime juice, my taurine, ginger tea, nettle tea, etc. And then I'm going to have a meal before bed. And it's going to be this deep, satiating, warm, nutritious meal before bed. And it's going to be well seasoned. It's going to be seasoned with my turmeric and curry and cumin and basil and whatever, right? I'm going to season it up with my pepper and roasted paprika, all this kind of stuff. And get my greens in, all of that. Boom. Right? And then the next day, I'm just going to eat regular schedule, and I'm going to eat in abundance. And I'm going to alternate between them. So what happens is there's a trend. Your food is up this day, it's down this way, and it's back up this way, and it's down this way, and it's back up this way, and it's down this way. But when I do that, I'm setting a trend, because as I'm engaging in that particular behavior, my body composition is changing on a trend. And I'm going to do that for 12 weeks. Because at 12 weeks, I'm going to go from here to here, and then I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell that strategy. I'm going to hop right off of that strategy, and I'm going to implement a strategy where perhaps I'm eating every day, but the difference is the amount that I eat is structured differently. So if I'm eating Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, on those days, I'm eating 120 to 125% more than I need in order to kind of compensate for the fasting day. Right? It's just an option. Just give you an example. When I jump off of that strategy, maybe I jump onto something else. It's every day straight across the board. I have an 8-hour eating window, and I'm eating at 85% of my maintenance. Maybe I'm doing that. Maybe I'm eating at 90%, but 85% more consistently straight across the board. You see, I'm doing that. Now, if I'm doing the alternate day fasting, my fats are going to be a bit higher. So maybe like my carbohydrates are in between 55, 60%. My fats are more along the lines of 15, maybe 20% dietary fats. My protein is higher on eating days. But then on the next strategy, my fats are down to 10, 15%, and my carbohydrates are up there 65% or so, and protein is the rest. And I'm eating within an 8-hour eating window. Right? When I transition from one strategy to the next, I'm doing that to create a soft landing. Because if I do the alternate day fasting and then I peak and I jump off of that strategy, but I don't land anywhere else, I'm going to have a hard landing. All right. It's the same thing with your investment strategy. Okay, when you sell, what's next? Oh, I don't know. I didn't figure that out. Or what's your next entry point? Oh, I don't know. Or are you getting back into the market? Yes, I'm getting back into the market. You better figure that out. Because when the market turns, you got to know when to pull the trigger. And if you haven't sorted that out yet, you're not going to know when to get in. Big shout out to my folks who grew up playing double dutch, right? You better know how to get in, otherwise you're getting smacked in the face by one of them ropes. You're going to get tripped up. And when they're going, they're not going to pause and wait for you to jump in. They can't start the ropes after you've jumped in. They're already going. You just got to time it out and jump right in and just do your thing. You got to jump in while that thing's going. Life is the same exact way. It's not going to stop and wait for you to get on. Everything's always turning. It's always going. The ropes, right? They're always going. You better get in where you fit in, right? So there is a predetermined strategy that you got to be able to jump into. Any strategy that you take should be a minimum of 4 weeks, but roughly it should be in between 8 to 12 weeks. 12 weeks typically being the default. I like the 12-week window. 12 weeks, 3 months is a very short period of time. It's not really that long. It's the same thing in like a stock market, right? Any portion of the market. So for example, let's say you can be coming out of a bear market and start to get into a bull market, but then like this accumulation phase where the market is kind of trading sideways, and it can trade sideways for like a half a year or a whole year. And then it hits right into the next year, and then boom, takes off, right? Parabolic. These market cycles can last for multiple years, right? 2 years, 4 years, maybe even longer than that. So you have to be able to play the long game. So you can't have a strategy, well, this week I'm doing this strategy, and then next week I'm doing this. You can't do that. Imagine your human body. You didn't have a plan. Hey, I'm gonna do high carb today. I'm gonna do keto tomorrow, and then I'm gonna do carnivore after that, and then right after carnivore, I'm getting straight into fruitarian. Your body be like, man, what the hell is going on? Damn, what's happening? It's destabilizing. Imagine the market. You want to buy stock in the market, but it's up 80%, then it's down 90, and it's back up 50, and then it's down 75. You're like, yeah, this is crazy. I can't. That's like double dutch with like 10 ropes all going at the same time. You're like, I can't jump into that. There's too many ropes. That's crazy, right? So this is why it's important to have a solid, consistent strategy that you follow over a prolonged period of time, and these intervals that can last you a few months. At least 1 month. And you have to give it time to allow it to work. You can't be like, oh, within the first 3 days, things didn't take off. It's not how it works. There's a loading period. In the same way, when you go into a stock market, there's an accumulation phase, right? So people may be loading up on certain assets, and it takes a while for that process to mature before things really start taking off. It has to be an accumulation period. Things that just don't immediately up and down. It don't work that way. When you lose weight, first of all, your blood sugar levels got to come down. Your insulin levels got to come down. Your oxidative stress got to come down. And as those things are coming down, fat metabolism is increasing, and you sustain that over a longer period of time, You get these compounding returns where weight loss becomes easier and easier and easier the longer you do it. Weight loss typically happens a lot at first and then a little bit after that, or a little bit at first and then a lot after that. So it's usually how it happens. So you may follow a particular strategy and you're like, oh man, in the first two weeks, I dropped 12 pounds. And then after the next two weeks, then it's like, oh, I only lost like 3 pounds. Oh, I only lost another 2. I only lost 1. And then you're like, it's not working anymore. And then you want to jump. Hold the line, because that's how it works. You either get a lot up front and a little bit later, or you get a little bit up front and a lot later. Hold the line. Right? If I invest in NVIDIA today, I buy NVIDIA stock, and it moves. It's up 1% this week. And then the next week it's down 0.5%. And the week after that, it's 1%. And it's kind of these little moves. I'm like, it's not really doing anything. I thought this was like a blue chip. It's supposed to do something, right? I'm looking and reading articles, and they're telling me, oh, new AI technology, the fundamentals amazing. This is going to take over the market. This is disruptive technology. It is. But you get in now for those compounding returns later. You got to play the long game. You got to be patient with the process. All of this is based on universal principle, everything that I've been saying tonight. Okay. So let me wrap. Let me bring it to a close. I'm just going over some things. Universal law number 1 is maintain the wheel. You need smooth rotations of your economy. No resource hoarding, no hitches in the wheel. Okay? If resources or profit is made over here, it is also made over here and here and here and here and here. All of it rotates. You take water in this way, you piss water out down here, right? It moves through. Right? Everything moves through. You don't accumulate blood in your feet. You don't accumulate blood in your brain, right? It rotates, right? Your clock rotates, energy rotates, positive, negative, push in, out, all of it rotates. So no congestion, no resource hoarding. Resource distribution, right? In order to maintain the smoothness of the wheel, you need to prioritize a reduction of that oxidative stress. Reduce the stress. It doesn't matter if there's an increase in the money supply. It doesn't matter if there's an increase in glucose or a decrease in glucose. Doesn't really matter. It's not the raw amount that matters. It's how well it rotates. The wheel either spins faster or spins slower, but you better make sure that it spins consistently without any hitches, right? Reducing oxidative stress is like greasing the wheel. Keep it lubed up. We don't want no squeaky wheel situation where you're just living as a squeaky wheel, right? We don't want that. Market fundamentals and market sentiment. We need a healthy appreciation for both, but really prioritizing sentiment. Because a lot of our health and what we get in return and how much progress we make is about how we feel. Right? So stay hydrated, sleep well. Do not maintain relationships that are not benefiting you. Do not maintain relationships that are stressing you or that require excessive amounts of work, or relationships that are bleeding you of your resources, right? And then it could be relationships with people, relationship with habits, relationships with substances. It doesn't matter. All of your relationships, everything that exists outside of you is a relationship, right? Everything you're connected to that exists outside of you is a relationship. And even internally, right? Because you have a relationship with yourself, right? So maintain healthy relationships straight across the board. Relationship with your market, it's the same exact thing. So you need effective communication and understanding. When you're an investor, you want to understand the market. You want to understand market fundamentals. And you want to invest in the things that have the best fundamentals. And you want to invest in things that have a clear trend, something reliable, right? Good communication, reliable communication. We call that consistency. We need that consistency, right? Because the consistency is the thing that we build expectations on. And your body runs on expectations. Expectation is a big part of human adaptation, like muscle building. Your body is only going to build muscle if your body perceives an assumption that there's going to be a stimulus that repeatedly happens over a prolonged period of time in very consistent intervals. So if you do bicep curls today and then you wait 3 months and then do bicep curls 3 months from now, guess what? Your arms are not going to grow. Because there wasn't an expectation. Right? Consistency breeds expectation. If you expect something, you got to be consistent at producing a stimulus that will create that expectation, and then that expectation is what builds the adaptation. Right? And then have a plan, minimum of 4 weeks, but on an average, it's 12 weeks. Playing the long game. You're trying to dig yourself out of a hole. You need a long-term solution. Now, also, the final thing I'll say is that in finance or the stock market or whatever the case is, there are short positions and long positions. Short positions are based on the assumption that this is a short-term play, and if you stay on long-term, it will blow back on you, right? So you get into a short position and you hold it for a very short amount of time. A long position is a safe, secure position that you maintain over a long period of time. So I will retain really good eating habits and sleep quality over a very long position. That is my long position. My short position is these really ridiculously intense workouts that are very short. Resistance training, very beneficial, but if you do it for too long, it will blow back on you. If you train with 100% intensity and you do it 5 days a week, you will lose muscle. It will burn you out. It will drive you into depression and crush your sleep quality and your hormonal balance. Stop training hour and a half and all of this, running yourself into the ground in the gym and try to build muscle and lose weight. It does not work. That's a short position. You go short on your training. You go long on your nutrition and stress management, okay? But you take both sides. Last week, I was talking about, last Monday, what I said is every solution needs to be two-sided, right? It's a seesaw. You got to balance it out. So you have your long position and your short position. All right? So I think I covered everything there. I'm tempted. I know there's other things that I can talk about, but I don't want to keep y'all for too long. I said a lot. Y'all are gonna have to rewatch this stream a couple times because we got deep into it here. But I'll leave it there. All right. Let's see what y'all got to say in these comments. And before I do that, hold on, because I got an important message for y'all. All right. I have a 12-week mentorship that's still open. I do 2 streams a week, the Monday night live for y'all, and then Thursday night live for tribe members. We get real deep. The Thursday night live, we open up Chronometer, we do live meal planning, we go through video tutorials of exercises, we go through meal prep, we go through training strategy, all of that. We get real deep. I'm going into a new phase of the Thursday night lives that I do for tribe members. It is a group, basically it's a group coaching call. It's live Q&A. We go over diet plan and everything like that. We went over last Thursday. We went over diet planning for weight loss and muscle building. We went meal by meal, food by food. We mapped out all the calories and macros, supplementation, food schedule, everything, right? So that's in the 12-week mentorship. The replays are also up for tribe members, right? So when you join the 12-week mentorship, that's where you get access to all of the live stream replays that I've done, including that last one that I did You also get access to my high raw vegan nutrition guide with built-in diet plans along with it, my fasting course and all my training plans, recipes, and the community Discord for tribe members. We're running a fruit bowl challenge where we post our meals, we post recipes in the Discord, in the community group. We communicate with each other. We got discussion threads talking about different things, asking questions, support, and then we have the 12K challenge, right? Where if you got a Fitbit or something like that that tracks your miles, and we post screenshots of our steps, right? So we're getting our 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, 14, 16,000 steps a day. We're getting in our miles and all of that kind of stuff, right? So you go in there and it's just everybody's just checking in. Here's my miles, my steps for the day, right? And we feed off that energy and keep it going. So it's a dope thing that we got going on there, and forever building and expanding on that. All right. So if that's something that's interesting to you, also direct communication and access to me in the Discord, definitely join the 12-week mentorship. There's a link to join that mentorship in the description of this video. Okay, in the description box below. If you want to book a call with me, because maybe you're thinking about personalized coaching, or you have a particular issue that you want to discuss with me one-on-one, there's a link to book a call with me. We get a full 60 minutes on a Google Meet, right? And if you want to have the meeting recorded, I can also record it, and you get a copy of the recording. Okay, so we do that as well. So we got a full hour to talk about your issues and whatnot. So you can book a personalized call with me, one-on-one. And then there's also a link to sign up for personalized coaching or a custom diet plan. The personalized coaching includes a diet plan, training plan, and weekly calls and daily check-ins. So we're heavy on the support. All right, heavy on the support. My thing, I'm not a guy who's going to be on the internet hawking pills and powders and selling you, enter my promo code and get this protein powder and this and that and that. I'm all about education and support and telling them the truth. We're doing some truth telling and dropping game, right? But if you're serious, you got health goals, you're trying to stay consistent, you want support, you want coaching, guidance, those are the options there. 12-week mentorship, personalized call, custom diet plan, personalized coaching, all right? And if you're not sure which route to go, book a call with me first, right? And see what you need. We'll take it from there. All right. Let's catch up with y'all in these comments. All right. My man, Cesar, what's going on? Good to see you in here. Good call. Appreciate talking to you. Let's see. Last Thursday's video was epic too. That's right. My man Jay always coming through to the Thursday nights. That's what I'm talking about. The consistency. I love it. And you're all set up on the schedule, so I see you there on the calls. So looking forward to us getting on the calls and chopping up game. Gamer Arm Buckley, how do I become a member? So all the links to become a member are in the description of this video, in the description box below. All right. All right, let's see. All right. May I ask, what books do you recommend? A really good book to actually start with is How Not to Die. Right, so Dr. Michael Greger, look into his stuff. He's really good. Dr. Neil Bernard, his stuff's really good. Cyrus Kambata. Also, I learned a lot about diabetes and insulin sensitivity, type 1 diabetes and all that. You can get his book. I believe it's called Mastering Diabetes. So that's a good, those are some good ones also. All right. Oh, that's right. Let me highlight some of y'all stuff, right? That's right. In fact, some have recommended low fruit consumption to balance blood sugar. Yeah, see, that's the thing. They're focusing on reducing blood sugar levels rather than improving insulin sensitivity. This focus on trying to keep your blood sugar low, that just maintains a low ceiling. I want to raise the ceiling. right? The ABC pattern. There you go. That's right. The waves. You know what I'm talking about. That's right. The ABC pattern. Yeah, yeah. The doctors rarely talk about nutrition. Yeah, I mean, most doctors are not educated in nutrition, right? That's why they got to correspond with the nutritionists, right? They got to come to us. All right, Peace King, first time on the live. You may have already answered this, but how many days should I work out to bulk? Okay, so basically when it comes to muscle building, one thing is very important to understand. There's no such thing as bulking, right? Muscle building and bulking are like two different things. Bulking is like you're just gaining weight. You're gaining muscle and fat, but mostly fat, right? The pursuit of bulking basically will just increase your body fat percentage more than anything else. So what you want to do is you want to train to consistently gain strength and muscle mass. An hour a week generally is enough. So it could either be 60 to 90 minutes a week is enough to consistently build muscle. The most important factor to determine long-term muscle mass gains is going to be intensity. Volume, training volume is a driving factor, but volume is largely overstated in training. Price to earning ratio. There you go. PE ratio. Yeah. I don't want to get too technical. I feel like I got real technical. I'm like, you know what? Let me not get into like indicators and the Fibonacci's. And I'm like, I'm not going to get into all of that because people are going to be like, what the hell is he talking about? Not the genetic freak. There's no shortage of like genetic freaks on Instagram ripping their shirts off and whatnot, pointing at you in the camera. You need to whack. Right, and they're getting, I'm like, all right. You got to read the room. Folks is out here struggling. You know, I know if I'm a 48-year-old man struggling with my health, I'm not trying to sit up here and listen to a 27-year-old flexing his pecs talking about how I need to work harder. I'm like, first of all, I'm 48 years old. I got a master's degree. I run a business. I have a wife and kids. All right. I'm not messing with that. I need something a little bit more in my tax bracket and age range. I don't got time to spend 6 days in a week in the gym training for an hour and showing off on Instagram. we need something a little bit more down to earth. That's right. Ready for the high level conversation. You know, we always have them high level conversations. We get deep. Smart girl for real. All right, folks, if you haven't done so yet, like the stream if you like the stream. Right, and share this with anybody who's going to find who finds value in this. Right, ROI, return on investment. There you go. We got some folks in the market here. We got some financial folks in here. That's right. Yeah, there we go. Y'all know what's up. We have sophisticated, educated, serious people in here. That's what I'm talking about. We've got some hungry, highly motivated, focused, sophisticated people in here. Absolutely. How to rid bad breath. Oh, I have T-Mouth. Do you believe this can be cured? So basically, yeah, the two-sided option to that would be number one, consistently killing the bad bacteria in your mouth, and then number two, growing the good gut bacteria in your gut while also killing the bad bacteria in your gut. When I say bacteria, that also doubles for fungal or mycotoxins, right? So in your diet, you may want to implement substances that are rich in antioxidants, prebiotic fiber, probiotics, as well as herbs that are antibacterial and antifungal. You know, oil pulling with coconut oil and clove, that could be really good oral hygiene. So I would say that, you know, maybe twice a day, doing the oil pulling with the sloshing the coconut oil and the clove around in the mouth. That could be a viable solution there. If you don't want to do clove, you want to do something a little bit less potent, you can do peppermint oil or spearmint oil. All right, but also fixing your gut bacteria. So the bad smells indicate mycotoxins or fungal overgrowth, or bad bacteria. Bad bacteria accumulation is a result of waste over accumulating in your gut. There's a congestion going on in your metabolism, right? So you really have to have a diet and lifestyle that is conducive to the complete and thorough evacuation of your colon, okay? And making sure that your entire digestive tract empties out efficiently. All right. So having a water-rich, fiber-rich, pre- and probiotic-rich diet, right, that is either fully raw or high raw. So that's what I would tell you there as far as that's concerned. GG, what's going on? You up late. You're supposed to be in bed, but I appreciate you coming through. Big shout out to you. All right. Are chia seeds a good source of soluble fiber? Yes, soluble and insoluble fiber. Chia seeds move through your gut and expand as they move through and bind to harmful toxins, helping to more efficiently evacuate the colon. All right. All right. How do you feel about high rep calisthenics? I'm a big fan of high rep calisthenics. However, it depends. So for example, high rep meaning I get on the pull-up bar and I do as many reps as possible on the pull-up bar. Let's say 1 week I hit 14 in a row. Next week I'm hitting 15, 16. Next week after that, I'm getting in between 17 and 19, right? I want to increase the amount of reps that I do on the pull-up bar within a given set. So I want to achieve higher repetitions, right? So I gradually tack on repetitions in calisthenics, gradually increasing the amount. And as I get stronger, I'm able to do more reps. And as I gain more reps, my body will build more muscle tissue that is in correlation with whatever movement I'm doing. So yeah, definitely high rep calisthenics. Definitely works, right? Of course, the more reps you tack on, there's diminishing returns after a while, right? So that's where you would either need to change the rep tempo to make the movement more challenging. So rather than doing the exercise at a 1-to-1 rep tempo like this here, maybe you do quick up, slow down, quick up, slow down. Maybe a wider grip, maybe a more closer grip, maybe a pull and an isometric hold, a really slow lowering, these types of things, right? So there's a lot of different training variables, but ultimately how hard you make the muscle work, the training intensity is going to be the determining factor on how good and how close to your genetic potential you get. All right. So you wanted to get back on track with the stream. That's right. Well, there we go. I appreciate you tuning in. All right, folks. I think I covered it all. I think we got to all these questions here as far as I know. Appreciate y'all tuning in, and I will catch y'all on the next Monday Night Live. All right.